But Kate Gage, who is incredible, will be running this panel. So I will turn it over to you, Kate.
Hi. This is great. Good morning, everyone. That was awesome to hear from Katie. Katie's been doing amazing work, and it's great to see how many young leaders are up here and are really coming at this issue and this movement from so many different directions. I think we're really lucky to get the opportunity to hear from four of the leaders. So my name is Kate Gage. I was the Chief of Staff for the March for Our Lives organization leading up to the march on March 24th in DC. So I've been around a number of these folks for a while and super inspired, and it's been just a privilege to get to work with them and support them. So I'm really excited for them to be able to talk about their stories and where they came from, and hopefully really make some concrete asks of all of you about how you can get involved and how you can support what they're doing. So I'm going to start with Zion. Zion, can you tell us a little bit about what you are working on now and what you're excited about, and kind of where well, first off, where you're from, but I think we're really going to hear about kind of how you're thinking about this issue and what you're doing.
So I am from Washington, D.C., and I really got involved with the movement because it goes back to September 20th when my twin brother was shot and killed walking home from a mentoring program. And I was really devastated, and my twin, he was like really involved and active. He was a youth council member. So when he died, I really wanted to do something just to continue his legacy, but I didn't know like what to do. So when the tragic shooting happened at Stoneman Douglas, and I saw all the victims and all the students really, just trying to create change, it really inspired me, and I got the opportunity to speak at the March for Our Lives in DC. So I took that opportunity just to tell my story and tell my experience. And I didn't only tell my experience. I proposed solutions for specifically DC, and I proposed a new legislation called the Zaire Kelly Public Safety Zone Amendment Act that me and my dad and my family, we all basically created and worked with. So it basically defines who a student is, and it expands gun-free zones in Washington, D.C., and it creates safe passage zones for students to and from school and other extracurricular activities, because in Washington, D.C., we don't experience school shootings. A lot of teens and a lot of people are shot or robbed and then shot on their travels to and from schools and other activities. And right now, we're waiting for a council member to propose that our legislation so it can get voted in and become an official law in DC. And we are also trying to engage all the youth around the city so we can hear more solutions, because there's never just one solution to fight gun violence in our city. Because in Washington, D.C., we have strict gun laws. We don't have any gun stores, and a lot of our guns come in illegally from Virginia. So we're also trying to see how can we reduce the amount of illegal guns. So we talked about a lot of buyback programs and a lot of different things where people could turn in illegal guns and get some type of reward for it. And the mayor, she just passed that a couple days ago. So if you turn in an illegal gun, you will get a reward for it in DC. And we're just really challenging every council member and every elected official to just consider that, make a stance on gun violence, and how will you try to help us in gun violence instead of just cheering us on, because it's our jobs to be in school and it's their jobs to protect us. So that's what I'm really trying to do right now.
Awesome. And Adam, can I get you to talk a little about what you're doing? You're taking a bit of a different approach, and tell us about what you're doing.
Of course. I just want to introduce myself. My name is Adam Buckwald, and I'm a junior at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas in Parkland, Florida. Unfortunately, I was there on the tragic day of February 14th when a gunman walked into our school and took 17 lives away. Additionally, I also was a speaker at the march. And at the march, I said that the finish line for the Parkland March and all the other marches around the world is just our beginning line. And all the student activists, including myself, are going to work each day to make a major change in our society. So just a day after the shooting, I was traumatized and I was very emotional. And I felt that I wanted to do something unique and different. So what I decided to do with my another fellow high school student was to create an organization called Parents Promise to Kids. Our whole movement is revolving around giving children a voice. So I decided to create a contract for every adult in the nation to sign, and vowing for the parent to make an honorable promise to their child to vote for legislators who will support children's safety over guns. So this contract started in Parkland, and I worked each day just to revise it and really keep it simple for everyone to read. Started in Parkland, and it just spread across the nation. We've been receiving contracts just from around the world. And I know that this is a main U.S. issue, but we've been receiving contracts from Florida to New York to New Jersey, just really around the world, and it's just been absolutely amazing, and we received so much positive feedback. Again, we're giving children a voice. Now the children have a voice in the election if parents make this honorable promise. Also, we just decided to create the second part of our movement where we're actually grading legislators. So what I want to let everyone know is that we want people to register to vote. That's the main goal. And when we're grading legislators, we're grabbing each House of Representatives from around the country and we're grading them. So we know that the NRA has its own grading system. So what I decided to do with my friend is create our own grading system for children's safety. So we'll give a A+ to a politician who will not take money from an outside source and only focus on common sense gun laws. And then we would give a politician an F if they're taking thousands of dollars from the NRA and not really caring about our society. So, thank you.
Yeah, and I think one of the most interesting things I've seen, I think, everyone knows about March for Our Lives and knows about the movement and knows about the various different parts of the movement, but I think it's really interesting to hear how much a lot of you guys are thinking about this really an electoral frame and thinking about registration and thinking about voter turnout and like really cementing a lot of it in that. Tyra, can I call on you to go next? I see you've got your Change the Ref sweatshirt on. But yeah, can you talk a little bit about what you're working on now and what you're excited about and your role in the movement?
Hi, I'm Tyra Hemans. I'm now an MSD alumni at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas.
Did you just graduate?
We graduate Sunday, so I got my alumni badge. So I do help with the organization of March for Our Lives, but more on the sides I am with Change the Ref because one of my best friends was Joaquin Oliver, and his dad, Manny Oliver, really started this organization because he knows that we have to change the ref, politically meaning we have to change the people we mistakenly chose in the White House and in the seats. We made a big mistake because clearly nothing is winning. We've just been failing. So with Change the Ref, the organization, we're empowering future leaders, which is us, the generation that wants to change our leaders because we want better leaders in the, not White House, but in our legislative seats, like all the political seats that help benefit the human life. And with Change the Ref, Joaquin's dad has basically been trying to go to states, basically putting a mural at buildings for people to see. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to send a message out because sometimes people don't want to hear things, they want to see things. So we visually put words out, like we'll put paintings out. So for instance, the first mural he had was in Miami, which was 17 desks, and it just explained to show that like these were children, like everybody sits in a desk once in their life. We all do. We were all children, but these children never got to grow up. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to change that. We're trying to stop all the violence that is occurring in our country. We're going to start with gun violence, and we're leading it on to any type of violence that we have due to rape, whether it be child abuse, neglect. We're going to change it all, but we are starting from the top, which is the main source of gun violence. Change the Ref is going to be changing everything.
And can you talk a little about, I know you guys have gone to LA, right, and a few other cities?
Yes,
and
we had in LA, we had one in Parkland, Miami, we had one in New York. We were gonna have one in Chicago, but because of the timing with graduation, he didn't want to miss graduation, so he's gonna come back this summer and make a mural for Chicago, because you guys definitely need one to help you guys be motivated. Because it's a motivating thing. When you see those pictures, you're gonna be like, wow, I need to change. We're gonna change our country.
And is there, are there more plans for the rest of the summer beyond Chicago?
Yes, what we're going to be doing is we are an organization, so I'm going to be going door to door in Parkland or in Miami or Tallahassee, because I'm going to be staying in Florida, and Manny is going to go statewide because he's going to be doing the paintings and murals. And every state that he's trying to go to 17 states. So every state that he successfully goes to, he speaks about the topic, he makes the picture, and he tries to influence the state how important it is to vote, because we need this. He visually explains it.
Yeah, and it's so great to see you guys bringing in art and artists and visual representation, I think, alongside a lot of the marching and activism. So that is awesome. We're going to switch to the Chicago crew. We've got Juan and Jeremy. Which one of you wants to go first? You guys get to pick. We'll go for Jeremy. Can you just tell us a little about what you guys are doing here and how you're involved in the movement, and what are you excited about?
Yeah, so in Chicago, we've taken a bit of a different approach from the rest of the country in terms of what we're doing here. I don't know if a lot of you guys went to the march here. It's pretty awesome. We got over 100,000 people at Union Park. Yeah, thank you. But we're really focusing here on the local issues, because in Chicago, the gun violence is systemic, and it comes from these core issues that affect the everyday lives of Chicagoans on the south and west side. So we really believe those core issues are things like lack of funding for public education, lack of affordable housing, health care, mental health resources, and all of that. So what we're doing going forward is right now we're planning a policy conference. And what that's going to look like is we're going to have that open to the public, to the people of Chicago, and we're going to have the people of Chicago write our policy platform. And we're going to have breakout rooms that each room is going to focus on what we believe to be one of the core issues of gun violence. So then we're going to adopt the platform from there, and then we've been doing some outreach and getting a base of high school, elementary school, and college students from across the city, and we're going to train them to successfully advocate for these policies, what they believe in, and train them to get out there and make some change.
Awesome. And Juan, can you talk a little bit about how you got involved and what you're working on?
Yeah, so I got involved in, obviously, March for Life Chicago as well. I had the privilege to be one of the speakers at the march, so that was pretty cool experience to have. And kind of how Jeremy said, I mean, the Parkland students gave us a really great platform to use, to lift up our voices as students. So here in Chicago, we're trying to really make sure that we give the platform and talk about the local issues that have been plaguing these communities for decades. Sorry, excuse me. Communities in the south and west side, have systematic oppression for decades here in Chicago. So we have to make sure that we use the March for Lives Chicago name and actually use it, and the platform that they gave us to use it to push for the solutions in those communities specifically. And that, like Jeremy said, stems from a lot of issues that revolve around poverty.
So this is great. So you guys represent, I think, a really diverse set of approaches of coming at this issue and being part of this movement. I'm going to ask Adam if you can speak a little bit. I think one of the things a lot of people are wondering is how are all of the different student groups, or anyone else who wants to chime in on this, how are you coordinating across each other or talking to each other, and how do you see each of your parts being a part of a larger whole?
Excuse me. Absolutely. I believe that all the movements. I know that we have so many different organizations and movements around the world that are fighting for one change. So specifically for my organization, I've been connecting with a lot of different people and groups. For example, I've been connecting with the Women's Youth March, Everytown Gun Safety, and a lot of different organizations talking about how we can fight for one change. But I definitely think that just communicating with one another helps further our movement. But again, we're all fighting for the same change.
Yeah, do any of the rest of you guys have thoughts? I mean, I think, Zion, you're sort of the DC chapter of Parkland. Can you talk a little bit what it's been like to work sort of across distance and be partners with folks down in Florida?
So I just think that it's like really just powerful to work with people from Florida and from around the country, because we get to go to a lot of different events and just like advocate for gun reform and to end gun violence, and they're coming at it from a different approach, from like school shootings, and I'm representing shootings that affect my community every day. So when we travel together and work together, you're seeing both sides of the story, so it's not just one-sided. So I think that's the biggest thing.
Yeah. I want to make sure that we have an opportunity for you guys to talk about how the groups here can support your work and support the movement. Tyra, I think you talked about some really specific things that are happening and some events. Do you have thoughts in general about sort of how you see groups like this? We've got a lot of folks here representing a lot of platforms, a lot of organizations, a lot of social media, a lot of money. Are there things you've thought about sort of how would you like to see sort of the larger community, and especially folks who are not already associated or thinking about gun violence, how would you like to see them sort of support the movement and support what you guys are doing?
Well, first we have to educate them so they have the reason to go in, because you can't just make someone do something. So with all the organizations and platform we're bringing, every day we're teaching people how important it is to vote, how important it is to cherish a life, and how important it is to help change our country. So with all that revenues and avenues and turns we're all taking, we're all doing the positive approach. And now it's just time for the people to actually go vote. It's up to them now.
And can you say a little bit more about that? Like we've got a long summer. We've got a long, hot summer to convince a lot of people to get registered and to vote. Are there specific things you're seeing folks in the movement do that you think are really impactful, or you would ask the folks in this room to get involved in?
I just tell everyone to just spread awareness of how important it is to vote and how important it is to try and save our world, because you only have one planet and you only have one America. And unfortunately, if this America is gone, we're gone. And we need to understand that this is our home, and we need to keep our home well, safe, and protected, not death, blood, and massacre. We don't need this anymore. We need to change.
And Jeremy, sort of same question to you. You guys are having your policy conference. You guys are thinking through what's going to happen in Chicago. Are there specific ways you want to see this room could support you guys or work with you?
Yeah, we'd love to partner with a number of the organizations represented here, because we want to make sure that, since we're making this event open to the public, we want to make sure that it's representative, and we want to make sure that the groups that have been fighting for these changes, for decades are represented and bring their experiences and expertise to the table. So yeah, we'd love to make partnerships here for that, and just in terms of overall, we'd love support in helping, and you guys using your platforms as we have to raise awareness of these local issues, because we need to uplift the voices of the groups that have been fighting for these systemic changes for decades.
Yeah, and one, are you guys able to talk about are there specific elements of the platform you guys are pushing? Are there specific policies for Chicago?
Well, yeah, so the whole idea is that, we're going to have, it's going to be open to the public, and they're going to be the ones that are going to tell us what policies they want to be seen, with legislation, because like we already said, like in Chicago specifically, there's so many organizations, like Good Kids Mad City, there's numerous other Good Kids Off the Block, like those sort of organizations that have been working on the ground for this for decades. There's no need to like reinvent the wheel and see like how are we going to solve gun violence, because these solutions have already been talked about. It's just that nobody's listening to them, whether it's the mayor or the alder person. Like, it doesn't really matter. So what we want to do is say, come to this policy conference, tell us what you already have like known for decades, fix your community. And we went to the protest for the $95 million Cop Academy, and you had people in these organizations like talk and tell their older people like, we don't want this. What we want is investment in our communities, in education, in a lot of these like in jobs and housing. So these people already know what they want. It's just that nobody's listening to them. So what we want to do with our platform is make sure we like actually listen to them, because we have the March for Our Lives name recognition that we can say like, okay, so we're March for Our Lives. We can go into a meeting with a legislator and not just be like, we want gun control, but we want all these solutions that these people have proposed to us directly.
And how do you see yourselves fitting into the larger sort of national movement? Are you guys coordinating and working with other March for Our Lives groups also?
Yeah, we definitely have. Specifically, recently we've connected with a lot of Parkland students because they're coming here on June 15th for the Peace March that's happening down in St. Sabina. We'll be at that, of course. And so we're just talking to them, and I think it's just, I mean, we're all fighting for like a similar goal, just ending gun violence. It's just, there's different ways about it, and we just have to understand, like, in Parkland, it's a different solution than it is in Chicago, and we have to understand each other in that sort of way. They have to support us with their platform coming here, which they're doing by coming here and making the Peace March like even bigger than what it is usually, and pushing that platform and giving like people in these organizations the chance to speak about their story.
Yeah, can you talk a little bit more about the Peace March? I know that's a big
moment,
so
right? I know June 15th there's going to be a Peace March down in St. Sabina. Father Flager's organizing a lot of it. It's going to be with a coalition of Shy Strong, which is basically a group of organizations that March for Life Chicago, it's like a coalition. March for Life Chicago has the privilege of being a part of. Some of the Parkland students, a lot of the main ones are going to come down. Some of them are going to speak, but then they're giving one speaker from each organization to be able to speak at that march as well. So that's going to be pretty big. And we're hoping to have the policy conference like that same weekend to sort of like carry the momentum over. But it would just be really focused on Chicago. The Parkland students won't be there or anything like that. It's just going to be like all Chicago organizations.
Yeah, I want to jump in here really quick. I thought of a more specific ask, I guess. We're still looking for a venue for the policy conference, so if anyone knows anything, let us know.
No, that's definitely, that's really helpful. Well, and how do you see, how are you guys specifically focused on the elections as well in Chicago? You guys are talking a lot about policy. Are you guys also looking at sort of turning out vote or doing registration here?
Yeah, we really want to create a network of students who are involved on the ground throughout Chicago and all these different neighborhoods and wards. So the goal is to kind of get a presence in every school or so, and hopefully have that network organize voter registration drives at their school. Make sure that there's a presence in each school. Beyond that, what was the other part of your question?
Just if you guys thinking about the November elections and
oh yeah,
how to,
yeah. So we were actually thinking of taking a similar approach to what Adam's doing, and once we have our platform, grading all these people running for alderman, running for mayor on these specific issues, because it's not enough to just say you want to have gun legislation. We want to make sure we want to hold these politicians accountable.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to.
Sorry, I just want to jump in really quickly. So we know that some people won't vote or they don't know who to vote for. When we grade these legislators, we are taking hours and hours and hours researching these politicians to get the right factual information to provide to the public. So I just want to let everyone know that, and we're giving accurate information and we're helping people at the polls.
And can you actually, I want to kind of sit on that. Is I think that's something that, a lot of folks in this room and a lot of folks who have sort of worked in politics for a long time have a lot of access to that kind of information and analysis on that. Is that type of, are you guys, sort of how are you going through the process of identifying candidates and doing that kind of research? And is that something that you could use some help on or support from folks?
100%. Yeah, 100%. So we're definitely looking for technology to utilize to push this out to the public. I know that social media has been playing a huge role in doing that. But we are using major websites, and we're using different, different sources, and we're analyzing this information so that we have up-to-date information. But definitely, we'd love to use new technology. Absolutely.
And what is your big vision for your for the commitments that folks are making for you? Are you hoping to scale that over the summer? And is there anything that you could use to sort of help that?
Yes. So I see that my specific movement will be here for years to come. When I go to college, I'm still going to be focusing on this. I'm still going to be advocating about this and talking to different people and also at events. But I'll be honest. Likes and retweets are great on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. But signing these contracts, as you can see on the screen, that will help further our movement. Really, honestly. So, thank you.
Yeah. And how do people find?
Yeah. So we have a website, www.parentspromisttokids.org. You can download the contract right there, and then all of our lists will be up there as well. Also, it was interesting. So we started with our first contract, the parents contract, and then it just blew up after a couple weeks, and then we introduced a grandparents contract, and then people said, all right, we don't have kids, but how can we still participate in the movement? So we decided to create a contract for Children of America, so you will see that as well.
Awesome. Yeah, and so Zion, I'm going to come back to you. If you had to say one thing to this group about how they could be most supportive or engaged in March for Our Lives, I think, or in all the work that you're doing in DC, what would you recommend? I think there's a lot of folks here who recognize the power of it, but don't maybe know how to sort of actually get involved or partner with you guys. So do you have any specific thoughts on kind of things you would recommend to this group?
I would say just like acknowledge that that gun violence isn't just school shootings, and like myself, a lot of people in my school and across DC has a lot of different experiences with gun violence. So just like giving everyone a platform and just working with us and providing us with solutions because we don't know everything. So just that's just helping me out. That's all that I really have.
And I just want to mention, Zion and I actually had the opportunity to talk to kids at Chicago Ideas Week. And we spoke to different kids. These kids actually live in the inner city of Chicago. And unfortunately, they have to deal with gun violence every day. So we were hearing stories about how certain individuals were hearing gunshots overnight, or they have lockdowns. And the question that I asked them is, how many lockdowns do you have per day, or how often is it? Because I was just curious, just to know. And some people were saying that they have lockdowns every other day, and it's upsetting. And unfortunately, the media is focusing on the wealthy communities, like for Parkland, and it's upsetting that. And they asked, why is the media not focusing on Chicago? Like, why? And it was really interesting to hear that. But it was inspiring.
Yeah. And Juan, I think I maybe cut you off for a second if you had something else. Maybe not.
I guess what I kind of wanted to throw out about like how we can team up with organizations in general and their role. Obviously, there's a ton of organizations here in Chicago that have a lot of power, a lot of influence. They do a lot of really great work, and I guess just my ask to everybody, and that's what we're trying to check ourselves and make sure we're doing is use your influence and power in the right way. So. Of course, it's important to register people to vote, but you also have to remember, like, there's a reason why people aren't voting, and it's not just because they're lazy. It's because they don't feel like they have a voice in, the Chicago political system, which is a problem. Like I mentioned in the Cop Academy, everybody went up saying, "Don't vote for this," and then the vote was 39-2. Like, this is what I mean. Like, that's the politics in Chicago, and so we need to make sure, like, registering people to vote is important, but we have to give them something to vote for. And I think that using our organization and using like our platforms to push for actual like systemic, like real radical change in Chicago is the only way to go about this, or else nothing's really going to change, or else gun violence is never really going to go away here. So that's kind of like just my pitch to everybody, and that's what we're trying to do, like really try really hard doing, because we can't settle for a compromise all the time. It's kind of enough for that.
Yeah. I want to also give an opportunity to talk about, I think everyone's really been focused on how this movement has been largely started and pushed through by social media. I think that's a big thing that folks are interested in, especially in the way that youth and young people are using it in a different way. I don't know, Tyra, I don't know if you have sort of specific thoughts on how Change the Ref or you guys, or what it's been like to sort of see this whole movement build out on social media and anything that we sort of have learned or should think about.
Okay, so when we made Change the Ref, it was 100% based off social media. And we've skyrocketed to the point where people know about us, and we want everyone to know about it because it's an organization benefiting all of us. It's helping us. So with Change the Ref and any other organization that I've heard, whether it be March for Our Lives, Meadows Movement, or the organizations I heard in Chicago, I'm sorry, I forgot the names, all of them have significantly inspired me to help, inspiredly helped me with Change the Ref because all of us are helping with one organization and all helping with one common goal. And my question to the people at this table, to people sitting today is, what do you want and what do we want? We have to work together to help because you guys have some opinions and thoughts that you want to spit and we have some stuff that we want to tell too. So when we come together and all form the ideas, we can all make this work. And that's what I feel like with all the organizations, we're all doing. We're all helping with ideas because we all have one common goal at the end.
Mm-hmm. And what's the best way to get engaged or support Change the Ref?
With Change the Ref, it's 100% based social media. I wear the shirts. We have clothes and stuff. Personally, I just don't stay on social media as much as I should because I need it for my political platform. So I have to do better. But it's 100%. We sell clothes. We have stickers, we have everything that shows that we are trying to empower future leaders, which is us and the younger generation, because they are future leaders as well.
So we have a couple minutes left. I think one thing I'm interested in is just going down the line really quickly and just saying, you just graduated. What does the next year look like for you, and what are you doing next?
So now for summer, I'm not going to be doing my summer classes. I'm going to be doing organizations and help with March for Our Lives and Change the Ref and gun violence prevention and all those things. I start school in September and I'm going to be going to New York City, which is even better for me, so I can branch out with a lot of New Yorkers and since that's a very opinionated state, that's really good for me. You guys speak your mind and I love it. And that's gonna really help, because that's a blue state and that's a very powerful state right there. So I'm ready.
What's next for you?
So we're gonna, Juan and I are gonna be focusing on building up the infrastructure of March for Lives Chicago this summer. Make sure that there's something in place and that can run itself by the time we leave. We're actually both going to DC next year. So we were talking with Zion. We're hearing about what we can do on the ground there to get involved, and we're hoping to build something similar there to really give a voice to the local DC community because being the nation's capital, the local community is often overlooked by the national news, and we see based on the research we've done, it's really their issues are really similar to that of Chicago's, and that poverty and systemic problems are really the cause of the gun violence there. So we're gonna see what we can do.
All right.
So I just finished my junior year at Stoneman Douglas, and I'll be a senior next year. Over the summer, I'm definitely going to be doing some traveling and talking to different organizations, as well as with the March for Our Lives, as well as doing some interviews.
So over the summer, I'm going to continue to speak out. I'm doing an internship, and they're helping me give me a platform and educate me on a lot of other issues, and then attending college in the fall.
And you're going to Florida, right?
Florida A&M in Tallahassee.
Awesome.
I guess me over the summer and just the next couple of years of my life, I'm just gonna be focused on organizing people, building people power, whether this is March for Life Chicago or the mayoral campaign I'm working on right now. It's just the end goal of revolutionizing what it means to be a democracy in the city and actually giving people an actual voice on the platform and the policy making. Because right now, the way the Chicago is run, it's not transparent and it's not being held accountable by anybody. It's why nothing has changed for decades. So my end goal for regardless of what organization or campaign that I'm doing, it's going to be about organizing people and making sure that these people have an actual say in our democracy.
Cool. Any last words or requests for this group?
Vote.
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 Awesome. Well, I'm sure a lot of these folks, everyone here is going to have a lot of questions for you guys, and you're going to get a lot of business cards and all sorts of things. My big recommendation in the last couple of months, I've really enjoyed watching a lot of the adults try to figure out how to contact various different student activists and get frustrated when they don't answer the phone or answer their voicemails. So my recommendation as the adult side of this is to text them.
We're in class. We're getting calls from like the media while we're taking a test.
Awesome.